Hey everyone, this is Jannicke and I'm so excited because I have Yvette Rose here visiting me in Norway.
Hi, hello, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
It's amazing having her here, and I wanted to make this live video together with Yvette to talk about something we think is an important topic, being fear of being visible. And it's coming up now for me, especially because I'm transforming the whole Wisdom from North. And I'm very excited about it. I'm creating a membership platform for those who want to step up the game and really expand their consciousness beyond the tennis court, in a sense. Practice and do it together, because I've found that I can go to workshop and I'm excited and I'm inspired, and then I fall back to default state. So I've created this platform with masterclasses and webinars to help you being continuously on the journey. And one of those masterclasses, Yvette is doing for me.
Yay, I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and she's going to talk about relationship breakup, how we can empower ourselves after a breakup, and also what happens with the relationship dynamics. Like maybe in a relationship, you brought your mom into it, your dad into it, like
exactly.
the dynamics.
And as we do baggage.
Yeah, so there's so many levels to that.
Yes.
But Yvette, today I would like to speak about being visible, because we had this great conversation where I said that since I was a musical theater artist, I've been afraid of being visible.
Right. Yeah.
And then you said, well, you can't have a company being visible, can you?
Exactly. They don't go together.
Right. So, and I know you know a lot about this. So that probably stems from a belief system in me, right? That's
Absolutely.
deeper.
It could be a belief system. It could be an experience that you had that just locked in that belief system. Because remember that a belief system is a symptom of the problem. So it's important to look at what is the belief system and then backtracking that to what created that belief system in the first place.
Right, so can you give an example? For instance, is it always like when we were below 3 years old or something like that? Or can it be from my teenager period?
It can be at any point in time when there was something that you did where you were so in the flow and you were so happy and you were so excited to do that. That moment where you just really felt like, yes, this is me. I'm really stepping into that essence. And then there was a traumatic or stressful situation associated with that. So say, for example, and it can be you were so happy and you were like, yes, this is it. I love this. And then someone criticized you for that. Right? So now something that you felt that was so beautifully, divinely perfect is now criticized. And which now means that you're questioning the very truth that you stepped into. And it's like, oh my God, what is my thought belief that created this for me? Or the emotions that I'm feeling, the way that I'm expressing myself, is that wrong? Because it was criticized, but it felt so right. So now you associate that emotion that you felt, that beautiful openness, with this criticism that came to you. And now what happens is, in your conscious mind, that gets stuck, right? So consciously you remember what that beautiful feeling felt like, and you want to consciously go back to that, but your conscious mind here is dominant. That's actually the driver. It's not the frontal cortex. So now we're sitting here with this beautiful thought that we have. We know what it feels like. We've experienced it. We've done it, and we want to tap back into that. But your conscious mind is like, no. Remember when we did that bad thing happened? So now what happens is that emotionally, unconsciously, that emotion is relived because it gets triggered. But we don't consciously realize that that is actually what's happening. We feel the emotion, but we can't connect it back to necessarily a memory. Because remember that the body doesn't understand the difference between something that's happening and something that happened. It feels it. The only difference is that if it's from the past, we can't consciously connect to why we're feeling that way. So now we just feel the anxiety. We just feel really bad. And it's like, but it's strong enough to hold us back, right? So that's what happens as a part of just one aspect, just one, that can hold you back.
And how do we deal with that? Because it seems like it's a pretty, I don't know if you guys can recognize this in yourself, but to me it seems like for Scandinavians at least, we're afraid of being visible. We shouldn't be too much. And it almost like this anxiety comes when we've made a video. It's like a lot of people saw that and watched that, and the fear comes of being criticized also from people, all the comments and everything. And I've noticed that it helps me just doing it again and again, kind of pushing through, kind of using a masculine energy sometimes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Masculine energy, 100%. So what happens with that is, especially, I'm just gonna tap into that for women, and we'll definitely address the guys as well. We got you. We're gonna address that as well. So especially for women, because we feel that there's a part of us that needs to fight for being seen. We have to fight for what we want because the suppression was so great. And so what we do is we tap into that fighting instinct, whether it's an actual aggression or whether it's just an internal feeling that we have. But that fighting instinct is it's almost like that's the difference between what helps you from saying yes or no, right? You know, you've noticed how easy it is to say no when you're really angry, when you tap into that aggression. It's that exact same flow that we tap into. So now we start to form a positive association with a masculine aspect inside to us, but it's not normal for us to be in that masculine presence. So what happens is the femininity becomes suppressed.
Right.
So, and that's why we become like these ball breakers, like, yeah, we can do this. And we actually put men off because the guy's like, I don't want to date another guy. But that's, right? But that's because we make a positive association with that. So now we have a positive results based on a negative action and reaction. But it becomes a safety coping mechanism that it's almost like, oh my goodness, it's become such a repetitive pattern. I don't know how to step outside of that. I don't know how to tap back into my femininity and still create the success that I want. So now for the guys, I mean, I've seen this happen between two different polarities where they become too feminine and submissive and just become the peacekeeper and like, it's okay, I'm going to provide, I'm going to do and create this. Or yes, they also become that fighter, but overcompensating for fighting because of the anger and the frustration of the suppression. And finally, when that anger is tapped into, because for me, what I call anger is a call to action. But how you take that action, that is what's going to define your level of success. Now, if you need a lot of anger to tap into and you create a lot of success with that, you're going to need that anger in the future as well to maintain that success. Right? So now look how you're destroying yourself within to maintain that success. Look at the price that you're paying for that. So instead, my advice would be what I personally went through in my own journey with, achieving success and the trials and the error was to deal with the pain, to deal with the anger and the injustice of being suppressed in the first place. Let go of the pain point that created that pattern for you to need that anger or to need the submissiveness in order to hide, because there's two different polarities here, right? Peacekeeper or the aggressor. So which one is it going to be? It's very rare that there's a middle ground from what I've learned and seen, including with my own experience. And I've been on both sides.
So do we need to also address like the core issue, that experience that happened in our childhood where we really got that, my mom said, yeah, I was dancing, this is just an example. So I was dancing in the living room and maybe she said, oh, you're just showing off, boom, I shut down. Do I need to rip that core experience up and look at it and let it go? Or can I just work in the present moment on, what you've talked about now?
In my personal opinion, is something that I stand in extremely strong, and what my brand is built around is that you don't have to relive a painful event or memory in order to heal that. Okay. Memories are irrelevant for me personally. It's the emotion, because that's the limbic system. That's the emotional brain and the long-term memory, and that's what you want to tap into. And the best way to tap into that is if you feel that activation in that moment. Your limbic system is already activated. That's perfect. That's exactly what you want. So just go with what you're feeling. You don't need the story in order to heal the pain and to create the pathway from that forward.
So embracing that emotion that you're feeling.
And here's the other thing also, be okay with how you feel. Be okay with feeling angry. Be okay with feeling frustrated. And we all have that moments where we're so pissed off and it's like, But then that anger gets worse because we criticize and judge ourselves for feeling that way. I invite you now, next time when you feel that, I invite you to just sit there with yourself and just tell yourself, you know what? It's okay that I'm angry. I allow myself to be angry, because when you feel that anger, it's like that little child, that inner child that felt wronged for feeling a negative emotion. Anger is an emotion. You're going to feel it regardless. It's going to come up.
And I find it really helpful to think that, because my mind is saying like, oh, you know, you're shining too much now, and I know it comes from my past. But then I think, I look to nature. Nature is growing all the time. Nature is expanding. The universe is expanding. Why shouldn't I expand? But this is my birthright to shine, to come forward with who I am. And all other like external things, or that social conditioning that you shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that, that's not really real. It's real if I buy into it, if I opt into it, but that's like not my divine nature. So if I want to put my focus on my divine nature, what I'm supposed to do here, that's shining, and that's shining for you too. And it's not like we should be bright lights walking around. I'm shining all the time, but I mean that like in a metaphor that you,
state of mind.
A state of mind. Everything you have inside of you is there. Is a potential for you to bring it out. Like a flower should blossom, but we're not blossoming. We're holding it down, and it doesn't do anybody any good. And I've noticed, you know, with comments and everything, it's scary to get too many compliments. It's scary to not get compliments. Everything is scary regardless.
Exactly.
So for me,
Exactly.
it's just anchoring myself in that the universe wants to expand through me. So going against that is going against my nature, which can make me feel sick, depressed, everything. So if I'm not following that urge to communicate what I want to do, or for you to follow your dream, do what you do, you're working against your nature.
Yes.
And I think that can cause stress.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also to add to what Janneke just said here so beautifully, it's also that, you know, our truth becomes diminished, because the moment we step into our truth, someone else projects their flawed truth and their perspective from their traumatized experience and perspectives projected onto us. But especially if that happens during an age where we're really young and we're still looking and trying to find our truth, to feel our truth, that becomes, you know, criticized. So what happens is we doubt our truth and we accept someone else's truth as our truth. Right. So now it's flipping it 180 degrees around to come back to finding, but what was actually our truth in that moment? Or we don't even have to go back to that moment if you don't. I'm just giving that for those of you, you know, I know you are there, you know, who like to actually go back on the journey, and those of you who don't. So, and it's just about going back to, well, I feel this. Okay, you know, what is actually my truth that happened in that moment? What is it that I truly want to believe in? What do I need to believe within myself to know that I can step into my truth gracefully and not having to fight for it? Because if you feel that you have to fight for it, it's coming from that place of lack, that place of undeservingness. And that there's no truth in that. Okay, so again, look at how your truth has been either manipulated, either squashed. And it's a matter of just gracefully stepping back into that. You don't have to fight for anything in this life. You can just have it. But it's coming from a place of lack that makes you feel that you have to fight for it, but you don't.
Beautiful, Yvette. There are some questions there. Do you want to address them? Can you please expand on suppressed anger too? How to connect with it and release it?
So suppressed anger, ooh la la. We all can probably relate with that suppressed anger. We know it's there because we've been pushed into a corner, and especially when we're in emotional, physical pain, that anger comes out. So number one, if you're struggling with physical pain, you know 100% guaranteed every single time that there is suppressed anger, because anger is like a magnet to an emotional or a physical weakness in the body. So pain, whether it's emotional, physical, pain is a call to action. Okay, so when there's something, even depression can be suppressed anger. It can be failed boundaries. It can be failed boundaries within yourself. It can be, the list can be endless. Now, the fact that you ask me, how do we deal with suppressed anger? So that tells me that you know that you have suppressed anger. So my question back to you is, how do you know that you have suppressed anger? What do you need to feel, or what do you feel in order to know that you have that? Right? So, and here's the question that you can also ask yourself is that, when I feel this suppressed anger simmering up, what is this anger actually trying to tell me? And I invite you, for everyone else here who's watching, give that anger a voice. Stop silencing it. Anger, what is your message? What are you trying to tell me? Because something in my life is being overstepped, or I've reached my limit or my threshold with something, but what? right? So give that anger a voice.
So not necessarily expressing it, but understanding
exactly.
the message.
Talk to the anger. Talk to it. And especially if you have physical pain, which again is a lot of sense of feeling of the underroot cause is powerlessness and failed boundaries, feelings of injustice. So give it a voice. Okay, I acknowledge that you're there. I'm going to pretend, you're going to be playful. I'm going to pretend that you have a voice. What would you say? Instantly, just what would you tell me? And there's your answer. And then look how you can constructively deal with the feedback that you're getting from this anger, because it's coming up, because it's ready to be dealt with.
Beautiful. There's some lovely comments here. We're going to wrap up soon, but one question, what is self-sabotage? That's a huge topic. I think we can self-sabotage ourselves in so many ways.
I can give you a 60-second answer there. So what is self-sabotage? Great question. I love that. Self-sabotage is when there is something that you know that you can do or that you want to do, but there's an unconscious benefit, an unconscious positive benefit. And I say unconscious because we don't deliberately do that. For example, to avoid doing the thing that we're trying to do. So say, for example, you can sabotage success by trying to be invisible, by trying to be small, because in the past, being small and invisible kept you safe. So now a coping mechanism, a coping strategy is actually keeping you safe, but it's sabotaging you from creating the success that you want, and to stepping outside and say, hey world, here I am. This is my brand. This is who I am. That is what self-sabotage is.
Right.
Just in a nutshell. There's so much more to say about it, but in a nutshell.
And it's important to address, because
Yes.
then we get to go notice with ourselves. Am I sabotaging myself? Am I afraid of being invisible? Because sometimes we don't even know. And the first thing is actually becoming aware of what's going on in ourselves. Becoming aware. Wow, I'm actually self-sabotaging myself. I didn't know. I was afraid of being invisible even.
And also just a quick one, how do I know that I'm sabotaging myself? It's when you're in a place of pain. And when you feel that everything's a challenge, or when you feel that you have to fight for something, when there's a struggle, there can be a big or a small aspect of you that's sabotaging that. So
Right.
that's how you can recognize it as well. I could just see the thought process and go like, but how do we recognize it?
Thank you so much for watching, guys, and check out
Thank you.
Yvette Rose's work. Wonderful. She's written so many books and she has courses and everything. And stay tuned also for my membership platform. We will launch very, very soon. And if you don't want to miss the info about it, you can sign up on my newsletter and I'll put a link below. Have a beautiful day, and I hope that you'll open your heart and let yourself, or show the world, your gifts and abilities, because we want to see them. And if you do it, you help others do the same. And that's why this message is so important for me to express and talk about. All right, much light.
Until next time, be the light that you are.